Hi, I'm Corey.
I'm Bill.
And together we host the In Focus podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Gnome Recording Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll tell you all about Gnome Studios at the end of the show. Today, we're joined by director and owner of AO Media Labs, Adé Ogunnaike. Adé, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going?
We're excited to have you here. Before we get into, I think, the content creator discussion we want to have today, first, congratulations. I know you recently became a new father.
Yes.
How's that been so far?
So, funny story, and let's give some backstory. I was here, I don't know when this will come out, but I was here yesterday. So at like 10:45 or like 11 o'clock, I sent a text to Corey. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be a little late. So just, give me 15 minutes. And he's like,
Tomorrow.
The show's tomorrow. We're recording tomorrow. So I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, baby brain. But baby's excellent. She's 3 months now, and it's a joy. She's just always ready to be on the camera, always smiling. She's evidently smiling and laughing. So that's just what gives me joy.
Yeah, I know. Stalking you on Instagram, your stories, like when she shows up, like, Adé, I know, like, you shoot some really cool video, but you should consider baby photography.
I should. There's money in it. There's money in it.
Yeah, no, that's great.
A lot of free practice there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I would tell you, like, that similarly, when my daughter was first born, I did the same. Like, we did I'm like, nope, we're not paying for a photographer. I got this covered. Shoot all kinds of video. Like, we did all kinds of fun stuff together. And as she's gotten older, now that she's part of the decision-making process, she doesn't want to be on camera. Like, family photos, like, twice a year, she's cool with. But so, Adé, enjoy it while you can.
So there are different phases. So we're at the phase where she was, for lack of a better term, mute, just like not saying anything and just crying. And that was okay for a while because I could just put her down and just like run off and do a quick edit, and she'll be fine. But now she's at the phase where she's like cooing and she has like different noises for like, oh, I need to get changed, or I need food, or I just need attention. I'm just waiting for the point where she actually starts speaking to me. And that I don't know how I'm going to handle. But when it comes, it comes, I guess.
It's going to be great. Yeah. It's going to be great. Awesome. Well, congratulations again. It's super exciting for you. Let's talk about how did you first get into video production?
Okay, how much backstory are we going into?
As much as you want. Like, give it all to me.
Beginning of time. Well, so I think 2008 or 2009. This is like post university, post graduation. I got a job at a company in Singapore as a marketing manager, and again, it was a titular job. It was just by title alone.
Right.
I wasn't getting paid as a marketing manager. It was just so they created a position, youth marketing, and I was supposed to develop that team essentially. And this was based out of Singapore. We had operations in Nigeria, which is where I'm from. For a company, I'm not going to give their name because we're not giving them any free promo. They're not paying for this. And I would say my first foray into video production was I had to interact with agencies, video production agencies, who would create the storyboarding of commercials that would come out.
Right.
And me being on set for the very first time, for some strange reason at the company, we used to shoot all our ads in India, right? And I know they have amazing talent over there. So imagine shooting an ad for the Nigerian market, where you have to get Nigerian-looking people in India, right? So we would go out there and would actually cast actual Nigerians, right? But none of them sounded Nigerian. They've been in India their entire lives, so from the kids to the parents, they all sound Indian, which is normal. Yeah. But we would shoot all those ads out there, and then we will bring it back to Nigeria, and then have to get voiceover artists to then overdub.
To dub them.
It was ridiculous.
Wow.
I'm almost thinking that they probably had like a connection with someone out there, and there was money being exchanged. But again, that's just speculation. But yeah, that was my first foray into video production, and then of course on the analytics side of things, where we had another agency that dealt with like ad placements. You had to look at like viewership numbers, how many times the ad was played, how many people watched. So it was my me getting my feet wet into that sense. But I was on the other side of the table. I was the client who just said, "Hey, go do this," right? But in the meantime, other than just being a bystander, I tried to be as actively involved to understand what they were doing and why they were doing it. So I guess that's really where I kind of picked my interest.
Right.
Fast forward, I left that job because I wasn't getting paid.
Wait, not at all? Not at all?
No. I wasn't getting paid enough.
Not paid well.
Still a valid reason.
I think what kind of like spurred that decision was because every other quarter we would fly up to India and go shoot these ads, and we'd be in India for like a couple of weeks to a month sometimes, and you're getting paid a per diem, right? And something that just didn't make any sense was that my per diem was close to my annual salary, right?
What?
Oh.
And I was like, wait, you guys realize you're paying me more to be outside the office than me being here. So it just wasn't making any sense. But like I said, it was a great experience. I just came out of school. I wasn't in the right frame of mind to be a manager of resources. But I got the experience. I picked that up. I got whatever money that was given to me. And then, of course, I left. And fast forward, I decide to do something crazy and join an investment banking firm, which is black and white, just weird.
So now is that in a creative capacity or
zero?
Okay.
It was starting from scratch.
Huh.
And you might ask why. Because they paid more.
I can
Totally
relate.
fair.
I can relate.
Yes.
I can relate.
I can also relate.
When I saw the signing on bonus, I was like, okay, yeah, I would do that.
Yeah.
Teach me. So I did that for 7 years, 7 grueling years, and for some people it's okay. You have a passion for it and you just do it. You could be good at it. I would claim that I was fairly good at it, but I was in the worst place possible. It was grueling. You're working hours on end, no weekends. It's a gruel. If you are happy, you're not working hard.
Right.
If you're laughing, you're faffing off. You're not really doing the job. You need to be close to death at every single moment. And that meant, me missing out on family engagements. And on the flip side, it paid me a lot. I won't, take that away.
There's a balance for sure.
There's always a balance, but then mentally, I just wasn't a great place to do that for a long term. And then, I in that same space, because I got to meet a couple of people. I was working in Nigeria. I was working in South Africa. And when I was in South Africa, I met some friends of mine who ran some of the production side for MTV Africa. And, they were shooting videos and doing some fantastic stuff. And I was just there, like, living vicariously through them. I was like, I want to do what you're doing, right? But I don't want to leave my job and lose money. So,
Right.
it was always that fear, like, okay, it's too much a risk to just, like, jump ship. But I was always happy to kind of live vicariously through them. They would take me on set. I'd get to learn what kind of cameras they were using, how they light, all that fantastic stuff. And to make a long story short, fast forward, I leave that job, the investment banking job. I decided to move out here to Nashville. I initially planned to go to a big MBA school. That didn't happen. So I go to a smaller school. And it's fine. It's okay. I'm not mad about it anymore. But what that smaller school afforded me to do was to have more time, right? Have more time to do other things, and that's where I kind of picked up back on my passion. Most of my video production friends had moved out here to the States, and I could fly out to Texas, one day and join them on set. They were doing like some Facebook videos for their internal communications. I was able to kind of get my hands dirty again, and just pick up that passion. And I was just really excited about it. Came back to Nashville with those big ideas and big dreams and a reel for the first time. And I said, what, let me just do this myself. I looked at the landscape, the video production landscape, and there was something that was lacking. And I thought that I could fill in that gap. I could tell stories of, for people on one hand, I could tell stories for folks who would kind of look like me. You know, I'm black. I'm not African American, but I'm black. But I felt like there was a space that was missing in that circle, especially in Nashville.
Right.
And of no fault of, you know, Nashville is primarily white, and it just happens to be. But I haven't seen that many. That's not to say that I'm there yet. I hope to be, but I haven't seen that many high profile people of color who are in high. Like I said, high-profile directors or producers who are of color,
like in high demand, in and around town, right?
Exactly that, yeah.
So do you recall the first production that you did on your own once you were here in Nashville?
Yeah, I know it was a disaster. It was terrible.
As they often are.
It was terrible.
It was a learning experience.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it was supposed to be something that I would have my partner who's in Texas to come over and you know, help me shoot, and you know, because I'd already pitched the client and told him, hey, we're going to do this fantastic thing for you. You know, it's going to be, you know, we're going to have, you know, a talking head here, and then we're going to have some B-roll of you walking down the street, and then we're going to have a drone flying through. You know, just great ideas, fantastic ideas. I did none of that because I couldn't, because my partner wasn't available. So I tried to do it myself. You know, I tried my best. It was okay. They paid me for it. They just didn't call me back. So yeah. Like as always, your first job is always somewhat of a disaster.
Yeah, and I know you've done really great work since then.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure. I know one of the first videos you shared with me was a spot for Morgan and Morgan.
Yes.
How did you land that as like a new to town, like smaller production?
So it's both luck and, of course, God's grace, and you know, just me networking through agencies and through some of my friends. So I as I'd mentioned, you know, I shot some stuff in Texas for Facebook. I did a spot for some internal videos for H&M as well. So I had, like I said, I had a reel of some stuff that I could show. And Morgan & Morgan, through their agency, was looking to replicate. Basically, they were doing a campaign where they were shooting some ads for their various cities that they were operating in, and they needed to shoot a spot for something that is Nashville-based, that tells a Nashville story, that kind of shows what Nashville is, and you know, just highlighting their office here and showing that they are in a music city and they are music-related somewhat.
Yeah.
You know, so they needed someone to shoot, you know, very last minute. They reached out to a friend of mine, and my friend was busy, and he was like, "Hey, I have this, you know, guy that's in Nashville, and you know, I'm sure he's well qualified to shoot this job for you. And here's his reel." And I get a phone call, you know, like by the weekend, and they're like, "Hey, we got this contact from someone, from a person that was supposed to shoot this ad. They said that you're qualified. Here's the script. Here's, you know, the time they're supposed to shoot. Here's what we want to do. We want to have like a drone shot, you know, across the city. We want to have you, you know, shoot in our office." Just they had laid out basically agency work. They tell you what to do. Just show up with your camera and just, you know, shoot it. Mm-hmm. And here's a budget. And I was like,
A budget.
I was like, are you? In my mind, anyway, I was like, "Are you sure?" You know,
Yeah,
because it was a lot. You know, it was more than I had in terms of the resources to actually shoot that job. And this is where, you know, the first tip that I would kind of give is that don't try to do everything yourself. You know, reach out to people who know how to do other stuff.
Right.
As I'd mentioned, they wanted like drone shots of the Nashville skyline, shooting through buildings, and I was like, I was really thinking about how many violations that would be and how many fines I would have to pay. So, you know, I reached out to one of my friends one of the first people I met in Nashville here, Brian Siskin, who, you know, flies drones, and that's like his passion, and that's, you know, he does that professionally. And I was like, "Hey, I have this stuff that I need to shoot. Please help me." You know, they want this shot like by the end of the week. And it's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." You know, and he was, you know, amazing. He had some stock footage already, and he was happy to shoot some additional footage that they required. But like I said, you know, that kind of came together. It was my first time where everything was kind of laid out for me. And my first interaction with agency work, because agency work is, in a sense, sometimes could be simple. It's simple in terms of them telling you what to shoot and how they want to shoot it. Right. But they want you to shoot in this particular profile. They want you to shoot in, these particular angles. They might have even, in some cases, they would have already storyboarded the work for you. Mm-hmm. And you just have, like I said, you just have to show up with your camera and just shoot it. The difficult thing was post-production. So post-production was between myself and a colorist. And, it was constant, conference calls where you're kind of going back and forth with the client. It was hard. It was hard, but like I said, at the end of the day, I had it in my profile. It went on TV, and I was excited about it. I think it was like the start for me to say, okay, I think I can keep doing this. I can. This is good momentum for the next thing.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too is like how you landed that job is really around probably most importantly networking and the connections that you have, but. I can think similarly, like how many times I've gotten a phone call like, hey, I can't pick up this shoot. Like, are you free?
Yeah.
Or similarly,
Same,
like
yeah.
I've definitely thrown probably way more work to other filmmakers where, hey, I got a call. Here's what they want. I can't do it typically Monday through Friday. So are you free?
And a lot of times that's a great place to be in too, because it's like, I'm working. That's why I can't take this gig. So it's kind of, it's a luxury, and you want to help your friends out and the people and pass work off. And
I would say that, what a friend of mine, actually my last boss told me in investment banking, and he said that there are two things you need to have, right? You need to be, and I take this everywhere that I go. You need to be good at what you do, number one, and then number two, you need to be fairly good at what you do personally. And then number two, you just need to be an amiable person. People need to like to talk to you. Mm-hmm. People need to like to be around you. And how that has resulted in the more work that I've had is, there are people who shoot more amazing stuff than me. Naturally, it's expected. I'm not going to claim that I'm going to be I'm the most fantastic, videographer or filmmaker in Nashville. But I think folks kind of are, lack of a better term, are attracted to working with me because I give them a listening ear. I'm not necessarily just agreeing with them all the time, but I'm able to respectfully disagree with them and respectfully give them new ideas, because many times, especially dealing with small businesses, they're like, oh, I want to do this and this is how I want it, right? But I'm able to go in there and say, no, you should probably do it in this particular way, because it might look much better if we do it in that particular way. Yeah. And I might be very, very stern with them, but they're happy because I disagreed with them. Yeah. And they still like me in some funny way.
Yeah. Well, it's there's a level of trust there too. Sure. They see, and people will hire you because they want someone they can trust and lean on and things like that. And so you do get a feel for what can I say no to when it comes to the ideas that are coming to the table. And you could be polite about it, obviously, and be professional about it. And we all have learned to be that way. And it goes a long way. It'll get you future work a lot of times.
I mean, sometimes if for example, I might be on set with another, director who's there, who is in charge of the shoot, and I would, the director might disagree with the client, but me as maybe assistant director for that particular shoot, I might go and say the exact same thing the director told the client, just in a different way, and they're like, oh yeah. Maybe we should do that, but I've said nothing different. I just said it in a different way.
Just in a way that it resonates better with them.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Ade's the smooth talker.
Yeah.
The wordsmith.
The diplomat.
That is true.
Nice. Now, other than Morgan & Morgan, I know you've done plenty of work with other small businesses around town as well. I think most recently, Slim & Husky, which I think recently opened up their new spot in the 5th and Broadway. And I think that first ever Black-owned business on Broadway as well, right?
Yep. There's some amazing guys. Clint, EJ, and Demo. They are doing some amazing things in Nashville, and across Tennessee. And I think in a very, very short period of time, they would become at least a national brand, if not global.
Yeah.
I think they are just right at the cusp of getting there.
And their pizza is amazing.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
And I'm saying this, I'm slightly biased, but it's truly,
it is good.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
So how did you first come across those guys and get to do some work with them?
Okay, so I think back to the same discussion of networking, right? You take on some jobs, and I think as we all have, right? We take on some jobs that are not paying you anything, right? It's costing you than actually paying you. You end up subsidizing the client than anything else. But sometimes there's some clients who say, "Hey, you know what? I have a Rolodex of people who, if you do a good job, number one, it's not just that they would just give you that in return.
Yeah.
But if you do a good job, the client likes the work, they would be happy to open up their Rolodex. And Rolodex, who uses that word anymore? Sorry.
I mean, I get the reference. I know what you're saying.
They have a list of folks who they can refer you to, right? So I did some work with another client on Buchanan Street, and they were like, "Oh man, this work is amazing. We are not paying you enough for it." And I said, "Hey, there's this other company that's down the road that's opposite you, Slim and Huskies. I've seen their work. It's okay. They're doing some. They're in the right space where they aren't just being driven by social media or by social media engagement. There are companies that just do that. They have customers show up because they saw their product on Instagram or something, and then they show up and they have it. And maybe the food might be good, food might not be good, but they were pulled by social media. But this is a company that is just great by the product alone. The product speaks for itself. So I said that, do you have the detail? Do you have the contacts for these guys that, I love their pizza. The pizza's excellent. And he's like, yeah, sure. No problem. I'll text them to you. And, he made the referral. And I got to meet the marketing manager, one of the founders, Clint. And we just started the conversation. I put on my investment banking hat and, I built out a pitch book, which honestly was a waste of time because it was just a lot of detail. From where I come from, my world was that you need to provide the client with so much detail. You need to give them like geographic information. You need to give them statistics. You need to show them, why the video is going to make their products, how it's going to, affect, sales. There's so many.
Like a really hard sell. Like you're just walking in ready for a no.
I went all the way there, even building out what kind of commercials we'll shoot. And he was just like, "Okay, so how much is it going to cost?" I noticed it was like at slide 5, he had already switched off.
Yeah.
And you have some clients like that, especially for the smaller businesses. They don't. It's not to say that they aren't, interested in the details, but they just really want to. First off, their hands are everywhere. They're handling, operations and marketing, and they're doing everything at every time. So their time is very limited. So, one trick out there is that, make your pitches short. So he just told me, he said, "Okay, how much is it going to cost? What's the next steps? What do we do?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Let me just, shoot you a contract." I was still there and still in my investment banking brain.
Right.
It's like, let me give you a 20-page contract, and then, I'll show you a proposal, and then I'll give you a storyboard and again, I was losing him. And this happened for like a month plus. I just didn't really get any feedback from them because I had just given them too much information that they didn't need. Fast forward, making a long story short, I said, "Hey, you're opening up a store in Atlanta. Let me have someone go out there and go shoot that video for you and store opening." And, I had a partner go out there, shoot the commercial, go shoot the store opening, and they loved it. And they're like, "Yeah, sure, we like this." They just wanted action. They didn't want my stories. They didn't want my,
right.
They just wanted to see what we could do. And we shot that, we made that highlight video. They loved it. And they were like, "Yeah, sure, please come into the store. Let's shoot some food commercials. Let's map out what 2020 is going to be." And you know how 2020 went. So a lot of that work got postponed. Fast forward to 2021, the store opening. We're actually working on a documentary for the founders, just kind of talking about their journey. First, like through COVID, through the challenges, opening up, being the first Black-owned business on Broadway. How it's not just going to be, how you can't just hold on to the tag of being a Black-owned business to survive. You actually have to compete, because there are the bigger chains who we're not going to mention because they're not sponsoring this show. They're the bigger chains who are out there who are ready to eat your lunch. So how do you keep the momentum going? How do you keep people coming into your stores?
Yeah, that's great. Like the work comes from a network, and I think building into maybe smaller projects that maybe you're not making a ton of money on or any money on. But I think to your point, like taking the opportunity to say, okay, if you really like my work, like what I would really appreciate is like a referral would be almost as important as, maybe I'm not going to make $3,000 off of our project, but if you can help me continue to steamroll into bigger and bigger,
it's a snowball effect.
Right.
Yeah. It just, and that kind of speaks to when you start out, you don't have a resume, and you don't have a demo reel and things like that. And you have to do the sometimes the favors and the low budget paycheck stuff,
zero budget.
Yeah. And just to get a demo reel put together, and then, also networking through that. And so it does have a snowball effect. And I've seen that with myself, with you, obviously, with you, like all of us, we've all seen kind of the what happens when you put yourself out there and when you finally get something on your resume and you start talking to people and networking. It does have a domino effect.
Yeah, like I tell people all the time, like I have a day rate, and like I always start there and say like I'll show up with a camera for my day rate.
Yeah.
But I'll negotiate that down to almost nothing. Like if I have belief in you or your project, or like as an artist, like if you want a music video, but you only have $300, like, okay, let's talk about your idea. If I think you have a ton of potential and I like what you're doing, like, let's do it.
It results in many times, not all the time, but sometimes it results in, getting that next higher paying job, because there are many folks who are like, hey, listen, I clearly can't pay you for what this job is, but I know someone who can.
Yeah.
There have been many times where, I shoot a video and the client is gracefully enough to post it and tag me in it. And then from there, social media is fantastic. Instagram is honestly, it's been amazing, because you can now reach out to people, can now reach out to you, one, and you can reach out to some of the top brands. But to my earlier point is that, there are times where, a client will post some work and tag me in it. And then, you get like other people saying, hey, listen, I love this work. Can you shoot something like this for me? Yeah. And then you kind of start that conversation going.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thinking back to, some of the maybe earlier projects or even more recent projects that you've done, I would love to get vulnerable for a second. And let's talk about your biggest creative failure that you feel like this is going to be amazing. This is going to be great. This is going to be the best thing I've ever shot. And then it turns out like, I don't love it.
That could have been better.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2019, God, 2019, through that same agency that got me through the Morgan & Morgan thing, they pitched me something for Apple and Cisco in Nashville here. And I was like, yeah, it's amazing, opportunity of a lifetime. So I get on a call, with the Apple folks who are, extremely knowledgeable. The first couple of questions are like, okay, what camera are you using? What camera profile? Sony's, okay, S-Log3, it has to be -3 tint, +2 detail.
They're in it.
Everything.
That's very detailed.
Extremely detailed. Even after I shot the video, I was like, okay, so I'm going to edit it. And they're like, no, we're editing it. I was like, why? And they're like, because we own Final Cut. I was like, oh, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, you might as well. But yeah. that day, my greatest creative fail on that day was, I don't. Will this be a creative fail or a production fail? Was so the client. I didn't have multiple audio. You know where this is going already. I didn't have multiple audio sources, this part of the video was a talking head, and it was a representative from Cisco who we were supposed to interview, right? I had been given the question, so I knew how to kind of prompt him to get, the required answers that the Apple folks needed. And, the client comes in, he sits down, I mic him up. We just had the one, like a Zoom mic or something. And he sits down, he starts answering some questions, he gets a phone call, and then he leaves, right? He disconnects the audio receiver, and he walks out. He makes a phone call, and he comes back, and then he kind of fills it and he puts it back in. And then we do a second take, right? Which was the most important take, because he was comfortable, he was ready to go. And it was just going fantastic, you know. Little did I know, the client hadn't really properly secured the audio receiver.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I get back home and I hit play, and it's just, I don't know, because we can't see this, right? But it's just
the look of despair on your face.
Can you hear that? There's silence. Just nothing. You could just see the client's mouth moving, but just no audio.
Oh boy. That hurts me personally, because I've had a few incidences similar in my time, and it's just we can all feel it viscerally.
As you started in on the story, as soon as you mentioned audio, I knew where this was going.
Yeah.
Oh man. So this next question is probably pretty straightforward. Biggest learning from that day?
Have multiple audio sources. I think my biggest learning, the biggest learning tip or thing is find people who are better at things than you. Number one, if you are running a production agency, don't be the smartest person in the room. You can be the smartest person in the room for the client. The client wants you to be knowledgeable and you just have everything on hand. Have a fair understanding of all the aspects of the production value chain. But when it comes to you being in the office and you being in front of you or the folks who you're going to be working with, don't be the smartest person. Just don't. Because you would end up just being, folks won't like to work with you, number one. And then you just really won't get the best production value at the end of the day. Yeah. So tip is get people who are great at audio. Number one.
Exactly.
Have a sound recorder.
Have a sound guy. And when I speak to sound guys, everything just goes over my head.
Same.
Because it's an art form, right? They know what is clipping and what isn't clipping, and where you have to place the noise blankets and all of that. It's not my field, but they've studied for that, or they know that. So get folks, especially if it's a higher budget and there's the budget to pay them, get them on set, and pay them to do that. Get other people to do other things, right? Because at the end of the day, time is valuable. Get a gaffer, get someone to light for you, get a DP. Don't do everything yourself. The idea, or especially when it comes to the freelance work, right? The idea is to just go out there and just shoot everything yourself, fly the drone, interview the person, just do everything, light yourself. Sometimes, but budget, the constraint of budgets could cause that. But try to get more people involved, or convince the client to say that, hey, if you want to get the quality that you're expecting, I need to have 4 people on set, or I need to have 2 people on set at least.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that I think a lot of people miss or overlook, or just early on in their career, they don't place enough value in that conversation, which is, if this is the intended outcome that you want, if this is the look that you want, if this is the style video that you want, I can't do that with your budget. Here's what I can do for your budget, and I know it's not what you want, and here's why a crew of 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever it takes to deliver that look, I think is an important lesson for people to figure out.
I think there's I don't know the exact term, but it's like the triangle of delivery or something. Basically, there are three major things that you can, there are 3 points, right? But you can only have two. So there's price, there's speed, and then there's quality, right? You can only have two.
Right.
So if it's price and quality, you're just not going to have the speed in terms of like turnaround. If it's, if it's price and speed, you're not going to have the quality. So, pick and choose. That's what you should always put toward the client.
And it's like, how much stress do you want to put on yourself?
Yeah.
Because a lot of, I am definitely early career guilty of doing everything myself because I was so desperate for work. I was like, I can do this. I can shoot. I can edit. Whatever you need, I can do it. And the level of stress I experienced for probably stuff that didn't really pay me a lot. Ultimately.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, unnecessary. So there's a component of that as well. It's just like, do you want to just wear yourself ragged for what? You need to bring these other experts on board. Please do it, because it'll benefit you personally too.
And I'll also, also add to that clients would at the end of the day take you more seriously.
That's true too. Yeah.
They would value the time and production value that you're bringing to their work, because they're like, okay, if I'm calling Bill or if I'm calling Corey, they are going to come with a team of 5, and I need to be ready.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like a friend conversation, like, hey, just show up and bring your camera and just, and get it done. They have to then think deeply. If I'm ready to, number one, pay his team,
right,
and call you, because you have a fee to get you out of bed, so they have to be ready. That's just one of the things that, one of the issues that you face, like dealing with small businesses, because there's a lot of hand holding. You have to walk them through. You have to explain why your job is going to cost you, $5,000 rather than $500.
Yeah.
If you tell them that, hey, listen, to get everyone here, to get the job that you require, this is, these are the folks who are going to show up, and this is why I need to have these people on set.
Yeah, well, I think as a serial entrepreneur myself, like I could totally understand why they want to be engaged, because to your point earlier, they have their hands in everything. Time is incredibly valuable to them, but so is money. Many small businesses operate on such a small budget so often. Like to your point, one of his first questions was like, how much is it?
How much?
And when are we going to get it done? Because I want it, like, timing is critical, and what's it going to cost me?
Right.
Yeah.
And just very quickly, just to add to that, there are some mid to large size companies they're not too, they don't want to get too much into details. So it's like, how much is it going to cost? $10,000. Okay. All right. Just go do it. Right. But there's some smaller companies who are like $1,000. Oh, okay. I need to do an audit of every single thing. That
Explain to me where every dollar of that $1,000.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that can be a headache. So those are some of the things that you have to kind of like balance out. Like, is this going to be worth my time? Right. Or do I just, deal with?
Yeah. I mean, you've dropped so much knowledge and so many like tips.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's great.
It's great. Yeah.
It's great. But I think it's a good transition to, I think probably my last question is, if you were to give one piece of advice to young filmmakers, creatives that want to, whether it's start their own small production company or just get deeper into indie work, what piece of advice would you give?
I would say get your hands dirty in every field that you can, while you can, right? While you're allowed to make the mistakes, right? While a client is, paying you, $500, right? Just do it. Do it in the way that you think you can, right? Even if the video looks weird, the colors are all wrong, just get your hands dirty. Because that is the point where you're building up your reputation. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be at some point in the stratosphere, right? And be making those kind of mistakes, because then you would really get killed for it. Mm-hmm. So just get your hands dirty. Also, something else someone told me yesterday, he called it leg day, right? So, typically when you go to the gym, you're just working out.
Don't skip leg day.
Don't skip leg day, right? And he said leg day basically for creatives is using your equipment on your own time. We run the risk of maybe renting gear or buying this new set of gear, and the only time you ever use it is on a client shoot.
You get a gig.
Right? When you get a gig.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so how do I, your YouTube, you don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
So on one hand, you are learning how to use it on your own time. You're making your own mistakes on your own time. And then secondly, you're just, you're learning new things, and once you learn those new things, when you actually do get that paid job, the small or the large paid job, you're ready to go.
And I think stuff like that keeps you sharp creatively
Absolutely.
too. It keeps you, it goes back to the conversation of a lot of what's said is problem solving. So if you're doing stuff in your own time, you're sharpening that ability to solve problems and anticipate things and just be creatively nimble. So when you do get the gig, you're just popping off. You're ready to go.
Take the work, like find it, just do it. Whatever it is, get it under your belt, right?
Easier said than done,
Absolutely.
said than
Right.
done. I say this like,
Takes a lot of
okay,
work.
yeah, this is what I'm doing. No,
Yeah.
I have my faults. I don't always do all these things, but it's as it's advice to folks who are getting into the industry. It's advice to myself as well to actually just go out there and shoot.
Yeah, that's great. Now, do you have any exciting new projects, either personal projects or commercial work you're working on we should be looking out for?
So I am working with a Canadian company, no names.
You can say the name. It's okay.
I'm working with a company called Nanook Cases, and they make some amazing. They are the competitor for another brand who we're not going to name for many reasons. But
That's fair.
they make cases for recreational, film gear, medical supplies, and the like. And I'm trying to build out some commercial content for them to break into the retail market, because typically, like most of these case makers, it's like business to business that they do.
Right.
They are just like making cases for like the U.S. government, to put in like weapons and stuff, which is another conversation. But or to be safe, they are building cases for medical supplies. With COVID going around, there are many reasons to have those kind of cases. Because they have to be rugged. So what we're trying to do is to build out a marketing plan where they are telling stories to retail owners, right? To retail folks, people who walk into a shop and say, hey, I like this case. I saw this case on YouTube or something, and I would like to buy this case. They are the direct-to-customer kind of type of market. So that's what we're kind of working on. Hopefully we should be launching something in the summer, because it's like a whole adventure series. So,
Yeah, I think the preview you shared with me, I think it was you had David.
Yeah, Yes. So we shot a proof of concept for them. David and Moise, who were great partners in Nashville here, were part of that, and hopefully we'll be able to share that fairly soon.
Yeah, can I talk about the shot where you sit the case over the waterfall?
Sure. Yeah, we in the video, when I'm sure I should be able to share a preview of this, but in the video, we basically like take the cases through there. We batter the cases as much as we can. And it's not just the case. We actually have equipment in them. So one of the cases had like my drone in it, and we just threw the case down the waterfall.
So your equipment was actually in there for the shot, even though no one would ever know.
We do it for the shot,
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we had to put we had to put everything on the line for it.
Yeah. No, it's super cool. Like, I can't wait to see it. Like, the preview that I saw looks really good.
Yeah.
So
It's awesome.
yeah, that'll be great. All right. Now, we typically put all of our guests through our lightning round of some similar questions. I hope you're ready.
I hope.
We don't have our fancy.
We don't have our fancy
intro.
announcer.
We're gonna have like a really cool pew 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 pew.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. We'll get there.
Lightning round.
We're
Hire a view.
At some point, we're gonna have like a really fancy intro. I just push a button and it's like, oh, it's lightning round time.
Confetti drops out of the ceiling that nobody sees. They
Just for us. It's
just for
do
us.
it for the shot. All right, so here we go. All-time favorite movie.
Casino.
Nice. Okay. The last movie that you watched?
Tried. The Zack Snyder, DC.
The Justice League?
Yeah,
The
tried.
Snyder
The
cut?
Snyder cut.
Oh, you tried? You
I
couldn't make it?
tried twice.
What turned you off?
Everything.
Really?
Well,
That's how I felt about the original cut.
Yeah.
well, I think we've been. I'm sorry, I'm getting long with it, but we've been spoiled by Marvel. That anything else that's superhero related just has to match that. But yeah, I tried. Like I've tried twice now. I get to hour 2.5 ish.
It is long.
Maybe it's my age. I don't know.
It is long. There's a lot. He's packed a lot of story
Right. I know.
into the 4 hours.
Yeah.
I'll try again.
So it wasn't the 4:3 aspect ratio. You got over that real quick.
That threw me off a little bit for initially, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah. The reasoning behind it like makes sense. Like at some point they want to be able to show it like in an IMAX where a 4:3 ratio makes a lot more sense.
Oh, I didn't actually know why they.
Yeah.
made
So that
choice.
was his original intent, was to film and present it in that format.
It's so I didn't even question it. I was like, well, that's his artistic vision. He
Yeah,
wants
because
it 4
like
by 3.
that's-
I don't know.
That's the warning at the beginning is
Yeah.
this film is presented in 4:3 to respect Zack Snyder's creative vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, when you're in that stratosphere level, you can make
You get
the
to
calls.
Yeah, exactly.
you get to make those decisions. Okay. Your favorite director?
Favorite director would be in the commercial side, so it would be Brian Buckley,
Okay.
who might not be heard of much, but he makes some amazing Super Bowl adverts. Also, Taika Waititi,
Yeah.
Yeah.
funnily, makes more commercials than films.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know
Yep.
that.
He's amazing.
He's yeah, I love him.
Most of these guys make a lot of commercials. You just don't really hear about them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did
I
some
gotta
stuff
look
for
that up
Microsoft.
now.
Yeah. Unless you're like a blockbuster like movie director or like a high end music video director, like your Director X or any of those guys. Like people know their names.
Yeah.
But to your point, there's a big collection of commercial directors
Oh yeah.
that sometimes kind of fade over into the creative space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to check him out. Most underrated or slept on cinematographer?
I don't know if he'll be underrated, but Robert Richardson, he's like behind most of all the what was the director behind Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Tarantino.
Tarantino. Most of his films, he's the cinematographer for almost all of his films.
Yeah, definitely not
that's-
underrated, but I think to your point, like probably just people don't know. Like they
yeah.
they know a
He's
Tarantino
probably not
film.
a household name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the fear. Like once you get to that level, they think that Tarantino does everything, right? He shot
Yeah.
this, he did the song, he did everything. But there are many people under him who are actually creating the work.
Yeah.
So he's number one for me.
All right, coffee or tea?
Tea, always,
Oh, man.
always,
That was a quick response. too.
always.
I need more coffee drinkers.
I would
around
actually
me.
even add. It's actually Rooibos Tea is my favorite tea. Just FYI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill is a recent convert to tea, so I'll have to check that
I
out.
recently started tea. Yeah, I'm loving it.
It's a South African blend, so you should definitely try that out.
Nice.
All right.
We'll do it.
All right. Pineapple on pizza?
It's growing on me.
Really?
Yeah, it's growing on me. What is just out of bounds though is fish. Any kind of fish on pizza.
Ooh, yes.
I don't know if I've even had fish on pizza.
Salmon. There's some.
No.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think so.
No.
That's no good.
All right. Favorite camera?
It would be the Blackmagic series. It's ease of use. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ease of use is key for me.
Okay. 3 films everyone should see before they die.
The Marvel Universe series, just all of them, just like
Just watch
cluster,
them back
cluster
to back.
everything.
Watch the
you know?
entire Infinity
Right.
saga.
Casino, of course, and Scarface.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. I like your style.
Yeah.
I like your style. All right. Well, Adé, thanks so much for joining us today. It's
Thank
it's
you.
been a real
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank Thank you.
We'll leave links to all of your things in the show notes for today. Cool. So all your work, all your social media, all of that. So please make sure everybody go check out Adé.
Please, the more. Bring money.
Yes.
Bring money. I like follows, but I like money.
I like money more.
Yeah. All right. And for our listeners, we know you have a lot of podcast options, and we appreciate you choosing us. Check us out on Instagram at InFocusPod or online at InFocusPodcast.com. To learn more about today's sponsor, Gnome Studios, you can find them online at gnomestudios.co or on Instagram at Gnome Studios. Gnome Studios is located in a century-old warehouse just outside of downtown Nashville, and it's an amazing full-service recording studio, so make sure you check them out for your next project. And if you like what you heard today, go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you leave us a like, comment, all of those things. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating. It helps us out a ton.
Yes, please.
And until next time, please feed your crew.
Absolutely.